don't do coffee dates. I don't do walking dates. I don't do last minute dates.
فرق ما بين preferences و standards. standards أنا عايز راجل بيشتغل عنده career growth عنده كذا عنده كذا عنده كذا. preferences اللي أنا I can go on a coffee date. I don't do walking date. These are preferences.
تزوجي بدك تكوني تعطي وقتك لحبيبك، تعطي وقتك لزوجك، مش بتخلص حياتها بس بصير أولويتها هي بيتها وجوزها، حياتها ثانوية، بالإضافة بدها يكون شكلها حلو أكيد.
The biggest red flag from her is when she said أنا غنية وبدي هدية. Goes on a date, the guy brings her in a helicopter, he asks her how it is, she says Habibi, I'm used to it. The standards are through the roof.
She look for an ATM machine. You know ATM machine? Beep, beep, that's what she's looking for.
Father, daughter, like close bond, and what would change?
I will tell you.
She will change mine.
I will tell you. It has nothing to do what he did. It's all about you forgiving.
ولا مرة صاحبك. Ellie is very important. بنت بتجي بتقول لي عندي 5-6x. I'm not judging her, but for me I cannot.
And me, I'm too toxic. I'm being honest. I talk maybe with 1,000 girls.
People hate you, and then you come off as a victim.
شيء طبيعي إنك تضلي بهي شخصية ما حدا هي.
فرجينا مين راح معك يا شخصية الزمان؟ مين راح معك؟
طبعا لا عندها كام كده concept محتاجين يتغيروا تماما يعني.
I totally agree. The men have to provide.
هيدا الفاينانشال 100% ما في منه.
Okay, the setup is a little weird. The sun's just coming in and there's all these lights coming in. It's like, anyways. So if you haven't heard, Netflix has yet again released another Dubai reality TV series with cast members from across the Arab world. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't usually watch reality TV. It's not really my thing. But when it comes to watching Middle Eastern reality TV, what they put on Netflix, I'm the first one to watch it. Because, you know, we're very private people. It's very interesting to see how a lot of issues sort of unfold in the shows and then how people react to those issues online. And it's just very interesting. I like to analyze it. A pattern that I have seen time and time again, first with Dubai Bling and now again with Love is Blind Habibi, is that there is just so much misogyny to the point where a lot of cast members, both male and female, feel comfortable to shame, bully, and even try to control women on screen for like the entire world to see. People get really mad at women being explicitly clear about their boundaries and expectations and standards in life or in a relationship. When Dubai Bling came out, I really wanted to make a video about LJ specifically and how she was portrayed as this gold digger. But I have a PhD in procrastination, so I never got to actually doing the video. But that's okay because Love is Blind Habibi came out and there were similar patterns. So let's get into it. Why do people hate the gold digger? Why does the patriarchy belittle women who are firm on their standards and boundaries? So before we get into the bulk of this video, I do have a little disclaimer. So this video, which is part 1, is going to be more like opinion yapping about sort of how the female cast members are portrayed from my perspective, specifically on like why do men belittle women with standards. And you know, this is something that's true outside of the Middle East, but it's also something that's very true inside the Middle East. We should be able to talk about these problems without sort of like self-orientalizing in any way. Part 2 is going to be more about your opinions as like a general public and audience to the show. It's going to be a lot more, you know, thoroughly researched, balanced. It's going to be a little more academic, if you will. Second disclaimer is that given the topic, I'm obviously going to be talking about a lot of public figures. While I will be talking about some of their actions, some of the things they said, what I will talk about in this video is not an accurate representation of who these people are as a whole, because I don't know them, and my objective here isn't to criticize them, but rather to use these people, use these examples to lay out more universal issues, because it's not just a problem when they do it, it's a problem when other people do it. It doesn't just happen on the camera with those people, it also happens within our society. So let's first start with the word patriarchy. To put it shortly, patriarchy is a man's world. Patriarchy will always praise men and always favor men and their expectations, their standards, their boundaries, their unrealistic little fantasies of what a woman is supposed to be. However, it doesn't mean that it's a man's world, that the men are the only people within the society that dictate what the rules and norms are, because both men and women dictate those rules and norms. They both uphold them, they both enforce them, police other people into enforcing them. I was gonna make this video like, why do men hate when women have boundaries and standards? But there are a lot of men who respect women and their boundaries, so I think it would have been unfair to generalize in that way. But also there are a lot of women who will police women in that way and will shame women when they try to set a boundary. Patriarchy is just a system that favors men at the expense of women. You know, unfortunately, it largely excludes women and the female experience, and not just women, also like people from the queer community, people with disabilities, they are also largely excluded. And one of the ways that the patriarchy is unfortunately upheld is in shaming women for asserting their agency, expressing their desires, expressing their expectations from men, and enforcing double standards. And what happens is that when women try to assert any form of agency within those systems through setting boundaries and expressing their standards, it usually triggers toxic, emotionally unintelligent, controlling men. To me, the whole double standards thing was very obvious from the start of Love is Blind Habibi, but by the time we reached like the reunion episode, it's very clear and even explicitly mentioned by some of the female cast members. So let's get into some of those double standards. Some of them are obvious, very, very obvious, but I think it's important to sort of reiterate them. Let's start with Karma and Ammar. Ammar wants this really traditional woman. Let's play one of the clips where he describes what he wants.
عمار زام دكتور اسنان من سوريا وانا شوي هيك مور كلاسيك. بدك تتزوجي، بدك تكوني تعطي وقتك لحبيبك، تعطي وقتك لزوجك. مش بتخلص حياتها، بس بصير اولويتها هي بيتها وجوزها. حياتها ثانويه، بالاضافه بدها يكون شكلها حلو اكيد وجسمها حلو.
عسلامة.
يا اهلا وسهلا. طيب شو بتعملي كارما بالوقت الفاضي تبعك، بوقت فراغك؟
بحب اروح على الجيم، بحب ارقص.
ترقصي؟
طبعا.
ما بفضل.
The disappointment. Okay, let's pause there. So he went from, I want a traditional woman. He didn't even question her about anything to do with traditional values. Like this very traditional man who wants a traditional wife continued a relationship with a woman based on the fact that she sang for him.
رد بالك ها؟
طيب كملي لي.
أنت تحب الأغاني القديمة؟
طبعا.
The point is that, you know, Ammar, he's a very, you know, traditional man. However, we all saw that scene where he's like taking a shower. Something like that, I'm pretty sure he had the option to opt out of. Because again, like, it's the Middle East. No one's gonna force a man to like expose himself in that way. No one would expose anyone. Because none of the other men in the show were sort of shown in this way. So if he had something to do with it. You know, that's not very traditional. A traditional man does not like go on camera like half naked, showering, showing off his muscles. Like, and a lot of people brought that up. And even in the reunion, like Karma, I believe, brought that up. What is this double standards of like, okay, you want a traditional woman, but here you are like showing off your entire body for the entire world to see. And every time he gets asked this question, not just on the reunion, but on a few interviews, he's unable to respond. He gives a very confusing answer that sort of deviates from the thing instead of actually admitting that there was a double standard. Let's talk about Shafi and Nour. So like, Nour is an icon. We love her. She is the definition of like woman setting her boundaries, setting her standards, expressing them very clearly. And I think that's why she got a lot of hate. You know, by the end of this video, we'll see that it's not only women who express their standards very explicitly that get hate, but just women in general who express any sort of form of boundary. Like, she made her standards very, very clear.
Don't do coffee dates. I don't do walking dates. I don't do last minute dates.
Yeah.
I don't do this. I need to see effort. He have to book very fine dining, like nice place. And I want to see like table full. إذا بدك بنت تطلب عصير ليمون وصحن سلطة. Sorry.
The question here is not whether or not any of these people's standards are right or wrong. The point here is that there is a double standard, that when the men make very unrealistic expectations, it's like, okay, like, yes, as you should. But then when a woman has a standard, when a woman sets a boundary, they get hate. And the reason why I said Shafi and Nour and not Mido and Nour for this part is because here we're talking about the double standard of expectations. Shafiq also has some very unrealistic expectations. He wants to be the first man to be with the woman that he wants to marry. I think that's quite hypocritical considering the fact that later on after the show, he straight up admits that he was with like 1,000 girls. When Nour expresses her boundaries, her standards, he straight up criticizes her, like no shame whatsoever.
She looked for an ATM machine. You know, ATM machine, beep, beep, that's what she's looking for. Because I told her on the reunion, you come in the wrong experiment. You want to come your golden fish. I totally agree, the men have to provide. Me, my mom, alhamdulillah, she doesn't work. And I told her, I will never tell you work. You want to work, it's your money. You keep your money. I will never come and tell you, you have to pay. Because for me, it's like this, the men, but the way she make it show on the TV, like I am and I am.
It's hypocritical and it's enforcing a double standard because he has unreasonable expectations with what he wants in a woman, but then has a problem when another woman is like clearly expressing her standards and clearly, you know, enforcing that boundary, that expectation. There's a lot of hypocrisy from the men where they'll say things like, yeah, like the men should provide, but then criticize a woman when she is looking for financial security. Or for example, when the men will say like, yeah, I'm very respectful, women can do whatever they want, and then they aren't respectful towards the woman and what she wants to do. And that is a big problem, and a lot of people pointed that out. Now that we've covered these two women from Love is Blind Habibi, I want to move to an example that's external to Love is Blind Habibi and take one from Dubai Bling, because like I said, there's a lot in common between these two shows. I want to talk about DJ Bliss and Dunia, because in season 2 we get a little sneak peek of DJ Bliss and Dunia's marriage. Wait, did I say Dunia? Sorry, DJ Bliss and Danya. DJ Bliss and Danya in season 2, we see how controlling, you know, DJ Bliss is towards his wife, how unsupportive he is of her entrepreneurial endeavors. I found it very hypocritical that he was not happy about the fact that she started this company with a man, apparently with this other man that he doesn't know. Let's just watch a few clips to like refresh our memories, because it has been a while since season 2 came out.
I have another business. It's the double-heeled shoe. Know that I put so many things on my plate, but I believe in my potential and I believe that I'm capable of.
Honestly, it just wasn't the right time. This wasn't a good surprise. Could have waited a couple of more days. But when I'm done with my event, you and me, we need to sit down and talk.
The level of like, I'm the center of the universe is insane here.
So you showing up at a shoe line launch with another guy that I've never met in my life, and this is my new business partner, ain't working for me. I'm sorry. It's not working.
Well, too bad, so sad. If it's not working for you, شو أسوي يعني if it's not working for you? There's a lot of things. I don't like you going to clubs and dancing with girls.
What does that have to do with
That's
anything?
not working for me, but that's your job, and this is mine.
Listen, you met me.
So
I was
what?
a DJ when you met me.
I was 23 when I met you. It's 10 years later,
Well,
honey.
you should have matured. Could you have not done your launch a week later? Could you have not done it a week later?
No.
I'm out. Honestly, I don't get back to work. Go do your thing.
Yeah, no, the level of gaslighting is like really high up. Could you have not done it a week later? Like, what? But I will show one more clip, because look at how this man talks about another woman. Like, it's insane.
Oh, LJ. LJ is like the Paris Hilton of the Middle East. She jumps into the DJ booth. She's already like acting like she's DJing. And honestly, it could be a DJ LJ coming soon. It's your LJ, like she's looking like a Barbie doll. She comes up on stage like a Paris Hilton of the Middle East vibe.
Like, what do you mean you're not supporting your wife in her entrepreneurial endeavors, but here you are like cheering on this other girl that you're not married to, you don't have children with, this other woman, supporting her so much in her sort of like endeavor and wanting to like, you know, be a DJ or sing, because we see in season 2, I believe LJ, she does a little piece where she sings and she dances and she has a little show. The double standards are through the roof, and the hypocrisy is like there's just, I don't even need to talk. Like the clips really do speak for themselves. But the reason why I bring this up is that the consequence of women being policed by the patriarchy in this way is that these women will then also go on to other women and police them in the same way that the men did. And not all women will do this, like some more than others. It creates a sort of like cycle, and I do talk about this in my last video about Al Rawabi School for Girls, so if you want to check that out, you can watch it after this video. I delve a little more into that theme. What was I saying? Yeah, so the reason why I brought up DJ Bliss and Danya from Dubai Bling as example is to make the point that women who are hurt by these men, by these double standards, by them projecting their insecurities insecurities, their toxicity onto, you know, these women, is that these women will then internalize that. It does become an insecurity of their own, and they will project that onto other women as well. And I think that the DJ Bliss and Danya example is a good way to illustrate that, because in season 1 we saw how Danya and Zaina had a lot of beef. We don't really understand what Danya had to do with it. When you get that little preview into her marital life and you see how unsupportive her husband is, it makes sense. It doesn't excuse her behavior, but it would make sense why maybe Danya, someone who doesn't have the support of her husband, would be perhaps jealous or envious of someone like Zaina, who does have, I think, a supportive husband. I mean, we don't really see their marriage life, but her husband seems pretty supportive of her. She does have a very strong career, someone who has been working very hard despite the fact that she has kids and that she's married and all that. It kind of makes sense, and like, it's not just true for this example. There are tons of other examples. It doesn't just happen like on Netflix. Like, this happens everywhere. This happens in the workplace, this happens in schools. Back to Love is Blind Habibi, like, we see how like a lot of the women receive a lot of hate online, a lot of different opinions. Some people are really supportive of them, but they also receive a lot of hate. I think as a result, these women end up resenting each other and sort of creating little groups with each other. Like, I don't necessarily like or hate any of the women. I think they're all just a result of what they have been exposed to and dealt with. It's much more complicated than being pick me or a girl's girl. And even in calling certain women pick me, you are enforcing the sort of division of women in saying, like, for example, Esma's a pick me because of what she said. It's also important to take a step back and realize that we're all the products of our environments, and unfortunately the environment does not favor women. As a result, we end up hating other women, even though that might not be the intention. You could have good intentions and still hurt other people. And the reason why I bring up Esma into this is because she was also shamed for having a standard. She received a lot of hate for expecting to be with someone who was more fit. My point here is not to like figure out whether or not that's true, but to make the point that, you know, here she is again, like, she was criticized for setting an expectation, for having an expectation of what a man should be, of her ideal man would be. And you know, Esma is also a victim of this whole like gold digger thing. Like, she basically gets labeled a gold digger because apparently when she heard that Khattab may not be of her physical standard, he said that he had money, and a lot of people are like, oh, Esma was in it for the bag. I think the only 2 guys in the show that we got to know that were like actually polite were Khattab and Karim, and Muhammad too. Again, it's not that all men do this, it's just that it does happen. Some men do this, and the men who do this end up hurting other women and creating this sort of cycle. Anyway, like, moving on, because we can't talk about this forever. Men will shame women or even criticize women, control women, to deflect from the fact that as men in a patriarchy, they have responsibilities. If you're in a system that privileges you, as a result, you do have more responsibility because you have more freedom within that system. And while I see that there is an argument to be made that, you know, men could also be victims of the patriarchy, you know, the men who exist today, they were born into the system as well. Even that responsibility, like, these men didn't choose it. This is a system they were born into. But for whatever reason that the men don't fulfill their responsibility, instead of acknowledging that they don't fulfill that responsibility, instead of acknowledging that they had a responsibility, that they may have failed, they will instead police women to remove attention from the fact that they did not fulfill their responsibility. It's like, what about some gaslighting at its finest? It's not, I as a man did not do this thing that I was supposed to do, so I'm gonna take accountability for it. It's instead, well, you know what, this woman did not do this. This woman is inappropriate. This woman is this. The whole gold digger shaming is a mix of, you know, men projecting their insecurity of other women, but also deflecting from their responsibility. It's the result of both of these. It's not a matter of like Islamic culture or Arab culture that men are expected to provide. It's, you know, like, forget that for a minute. Like, if you're in a patriarchy, regardless of where you are, like, even in the West, if you are in a system that benefits you, you should have more responsibility. Like, did we forget, like, that women in the Middle East, like, they don't have the same legal rights as men. They don't have the same rights in divorce as men do. Like, if you're a woman in the Middle East, you can't initiate the divorce process. Women don't have the same divorcing rights. So, like, the first thing I thought when watching this show was like, oh, this is so dangerous for the women in these shows, because the whole point of the show is that you meet a man and then, like, within a month you're probably married to him. And I understand why a lot of the women said no to the marriage, because, like, it's very permanent for the women. For the men, not so much, but for the women, it is very, very permanent. Did we also forget that women carry 100% of the burden of, like, childbirth and domestic chores. A lot of the men in the show were like, they want a woman who will have children. They want a woman who will, you know, look after the house and everything, forgetting that, you know, all these women have careers, all these women have jobs. It's not just the men that are working. You know, men will insult women for being gold diggers to deflect from the fact that they do have to fully provide, or that. And there is a double standard here, because like, if, you know, men are looking for a woman to look after them, to look after the house, to look after the children, to like bear children for them, like, does that not make men like baby diggers? Like, does that not make man like a mother digger? There's no like term for men that has the same derogatory, negative, insulting tone the same way that the term gold digger does. Like, instead of like acknowledging that there's a reason why women need to like be specific with what they want and to seek out financial stability, because again, they're at a disadvantage, they will instead deflect that and be like, oh, she's a gold digger, there's something wrong with her, like, who would not want me, I'm perfect, whatever. But anyway, moving on. Financial responsibility is not all that is going to be expected from men in marriage, or like in a relationship, or like in parenthood, because there is also an emotional responsibility that men need to provide to their wives, but also like to their children. It's not enough to just like provide finances in a relationship. Like, you need to be able to offer more, because again, like, all these women have careers, most of them are like entrepreneurs, they have money. So it's not just about finding a man that will provide for them financially, but also about finding a man that will support them emotionally. And I'm gonna talk about a little clip from a podcast episode between Shafiq Dunya and Hikmat Wehbi, who's the host of the podcast. He has a podcast where he interviews a lot of public figures in the Middle East. The discussion itself is very long, so I'm just gonna like show a few clips and sum up what's going on.
First time in my life, like getting engaged for real, serious. Of course, I'm gonna need someone to guide me, and who is gonna guide me better than someone who sacrificed their entire life for me? I don't understand. So for me, it's completely normal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you know that it's a new day, it's a new life, it's a new relationship, and life goes on, and you know that it's never your fault what happened between you and between the father and the mother, and you have your personality and your decisions, and it's never your fault whatever happened. And it's maybe a great chance that he's opening. Will you accept that chance to have a connection, a reunion?
شوف يعني صراحة I'd rather not talk about it.
So like, basically a little preface, like, I believe they were talking about her relationship with her mother, because as we saw in the show, Dunya is very close with her mother, and you know, there's a reason why she's very close with her mother. It's because her father abandoned her, and she's talking about it, and then here she like very explicitly expresses, you know, actually I'd rather not talk about it. But let's continue the video.
I just need your opinion.
My opinion is if it had to be done, it was going to be done way before I met Shafiq. Like, to be honest, for me, if I'm with Shafiq, it concerns me, him, and the person that raised me to be who I am, not the person who abandoned me. I don't know why he would want to meet someone who abandoned me. You know what I mean? And maybe it's like traditions. If you're talking about traditions, I understand.
I don't think it's about tradition. I think it's about you forgiving, for example, and it's you have somebody on your side, you know.
لا شوف يعني أنا صراحة بقول لك I'm completely at peace with myself. Like, I easily forgive. You can ask him. Like, I think I'm way too nice, by the way, in my life. Like, I easily forgive everything. I easily forget everything, actually. But it's just like خلاص. Like, obviously, I don't have this father-daughter like close bond and no, oh my god, like I have to call Baba إيش أسوي Baba إيش. No, I didn't have that since the beginning, so why would I have that now? And no hatred, بالعكس والله بالعكس أتمنى له الخير وكل شيء يعني. بس what would be الأساس? What would be الأساس? Like على إيش what would change?
I will tell you.
She will change minds.
I will tell you. It has nothing to do what he did. It's all about you forgiving, and there's nothing justify what happened, although I know nothing, but nothing justify what happened. But you need to know two things. It's not your fault. Second thing, you're more stronger when you just, you know what, forgive. It just makes you happier.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there because, like I said, it's a very long clip. It's like 6 minutes. of essentially Dunya saying like, hey, like, I don't want to have a relationship with my dad for XYZ reason, and then them being like, actually no, you should move on and forgive, and like you're starting a new chapter in your life. And like here's the thing, before I get into this, I do want to preface by saying like I understand that within Arab culture, it's understandable why they might say this, but in the clip themselves, like they even admit that it's not about tradition. So if it's not about tradition, what is it about? It's about deflecting from the fact that her father like straight up left her, like the fact that she's setting a boundary and not having a relationship with her father. So like here's the thing, at first Dunya very clearly, number one, she very clearly expressed that she would rather not talk about it, and I think she does that more than once. She attempts to set a boundary there. She attempts to say like, hey, I'd rather not talk about this. I understand that like as a podcast host, like that's his job to ask these questions, it's his job to get the answers and so on. What I find is like the bigger issue is that both Shafiq and Hikmat are trying to convince her that she should rekindle her relationship with her father in order to move on, and to them, moving on, in their definition, not hers, is forgiving her father, including him in this this important part of her life, because she's getting married, it's a new chapter. And I see that like from the perspective of Arab culture and tradition, like being close to the family is very important, and it's understandable why people would say like, oh, like she should resolve things with her father, especially since again we're talking about a patriarchal society where the father is supposed to play an extremely important role when it comes to the daughter getting married. However, again, this father in question has not fulfilled his duties as a father to Dunya. You know, based on traditional values as well, men are expected to provide emotionally for their children, and this responsibility was not fulfilled. As she explained, like her father was not part of her life, he was not there for her when she needed him. So like, you know, if he did not fulfill his responsibility as a father to Dunya emotionally, like would that not void him of the privilege of playing a role in her marriage? The way that I see this is that instead of acknowledging that Dunya's father, a man, did not fulfill his responsibility as a father and like as a man within a marriage, Shafiq and Hikmat instead focus on like Dunya and be like, well, you should move on for your sake, for your peace. By refusing to have a strong relationship with her father, she is setting a boundary that, you know, this man hurt her and she does not want to have a close relationship with her because this man hurt her. They doesn't deserve to be part of her life. They undermined the boundary of her not wanting to talk about it, but they also undermine the boundary that she is setting in like not wanting to have a relationship with her father. And you know, as someone who is often in Dunya's shoes, like I know what I'm talking about because I have a similar situation. I think she handled the situation like very well. Like it's a very triggering topic, and like, you know what, like her reaction here reminds me of how Nour handled the bullying she received on the reunion episode. Even though both these women were in very different situations, I still think there's a parallel in how both these women managed to navigate attempts of men trying to undermine their boundaries and not giving in to these comments and statements that were clearly meant to trigger them. Most people would go out of their way to pit Dunya and Nour against each other, and this kind of like leads up to the conclusion of this part, but also this video, which is that like regardless in how women present themselves, how explicitly they present their boundaries, women are belittled proportionately to how explicitly they express their standards, how explicitly they present their boundaries. We see this in Love is Blind Habibi. Like Nour, who is very vocal and clear about her boundaries and her expectations, receives a lot more backlash than, for example, Dunya, who is less expressive in her boundaries. But she still does receive pushback. And like, you know, both these women sort of challenge the sort of godlike position that men have within a society. They are both setting boundaries with men, and they strayed away from the male fantasy of women being calm and polite and, you know, nurturing and forgiving and like submissive. Unfortunately, due to my yapping, my microphone unalived itself before I could finish this video. So here are some cute cat pictures to look at while I finish my conclusion. So as much as people will try to defend these misogynistic behaviors, to uphold patriarchal values and norms, saying that, you know, that's just how the culture is, that's how Arab culture is, Islamic culture. The truth is, what constitutes Arab, Middle Eastern, or Islamic culture and values is extremely divided and differs from one person to another, or even one household to another. On one hand, some people will point out and criticize misogynistic double standards on these shows. However, others will applaud quote-unquote staying true to tradition, and even criticize the fact that these shows are not accurate representations of the Arab Middle East, which is true to a certain extent. But as someone who's both Western and Middle Eastern, I can see all the nuances in what the public is saying. There is a lot of nuance to this issue, which is why we will be uncovering these nuances in part 2. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you made it this far in the video, please comment which one is your favorite cat so I can see which one of you guys made it through to the end. If you enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe and turn off the notification bell to know when part 2 will be coming out, because that will be the next video to be published on my channel. I'm still starting out here, so if you have any friends that might enjoy this video, maybe to send it to them to let them know that you are thinking of them. Also, like I said, part 2 is about your opinions as an audience, so if you'd like to help me a little in my research for that video, please feel free to comment what you think about Love is Blind Habibi, Dubai Bling, or even my video. I hope to see you all soon in my next video. Bye!